Hi, everybody. I'm just going to reach over and let myself know that we are being recorded. Welcome. My name is Sonny Grint, and I work with Singer Sewing Company, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. What we're going to talk about today is sergers and just some kind of basics. We had a lot of people sign up, so that to me means you might have a lot of questions. So Bethany is going to be helping us in the chat today. She's also going to be my camera person. So if you hear me say, hey, Bethany, go to the other camera, that's why. And then also Amy Mulroney is here, and Amy is going to be helping us also in the chat. And she's going to be putting up some links to different products, to different classes, different things like that. So excited you're here. And I'm just going to really jump right in to make sure that we have enough time to do everything today. So what we're going to start with, and by the way, I see Colorado, California, I've got all sorts of things going on. So really appreciate that. So today I am working on the Singer Heavy Duty, and this is a lovely serger. It is a 2-thread, 3-thread, 4-thread serger. So it gives you lots of options. And we're going to talk about the 4-thread stitch today, as well as 2 3-thread options. So we're going to be doing a few different things. And I'm just going to pose this question, and Bethany and Amy, you can just kind of let me know what people say. But basically, how many of you out there already have a serger? Because that's actually a really great question. So if you have a serger, just put that in the chat. And if you don't have a serger, this is a great way to see if it's for you. So that's why I kind of wanted to start with that. With a serger, I kind of liken a serger to a microwave and an oven. And that may sound kind of weird, but if you think about it, with an oven, you're going to make a roast in the oven, but probably not in the microwave. But you're going to make a cup of coffee in the microwave. You're going to heat it up, but you probably won't do that on your stove. So you kind of need both the serger for fast stuff and then the sewing machine. So, you know, whatever regular sewing machine, we've got a couple beautiful Singer machines behind me. You know, you definitely need a sewing machine as well. So just kind of think of it that way. And with the serger, Bethany, if you would go ahead and change over to our other camera, the serger looks a little different. And actually, we're using 4 threads for our first stitch. And what that stitch looks like, and I'm going to show you this, and actually, I'm going to pull it up a little bit. What a serger stitch does, and then I'm going to do this, is it's going to make a seam, it's going to cut the fabric, and it's going to overcast the edge. Can you see how those threads kind of go over the edge? And it just makes for a beautiful seam. And that's how, like, the dress that I have on, a few other garments that I have here. This one's going to be a little hard to see, but this is kind of fun. Actually, this is fabric I got from Australia, so it's kind of pretty cool fabric. But when I open it up, and I know you can't see me doing this, but here we go. You can see how you've just got this great little stitch right here, right? So that's what a serger does. So that's what's so cool about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my machine here. And when I open that up, what I want you to notice is there's a lot of moving parts, right? So there's a lot of moving parts. I'm going to turn this so we can see a little bit more. And then I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, because this is what I don't think people really understand what a serger is. I'm going to move over here. We have, there we go. You can see it here. See how there's actually 2 needles right there. So I'm going to use 2 needles, and then I'm using what's called loopers down here. So I'm going to turn my hand wheel, and can you see there's this little piece right here? I want you guys to watch as this goes up and down. See that thing going up and down? This is called the upper looper because it's going up above to make the stitch. And then down here, so look here, there's a little piece that's kind of poking out. Can you see that? that little piece poking out. So I'm gonna, this one right here, that's the lower looper. Okay, so we're using 2 needles, the upper looper and the lower looper, all to make one stitch. So I think that's important that you realize. And if, let me get the right piece here for us. So if we look here, normally with a serger, and so I'm going to zoom back out for just a minute. Whoop, other way. Sorry about that, guys. Usually with a serger, you can see I've got some yellow thread here. You usually are going to use the same color thread on everything when you're sewing. So you're going to use 4 spools of the same color thread when you're actually sewing a garment, or when you're doing quilting, or when you're doing anything that you're actually sewing the stitch. When you're learning about a serger, we really do recommend that you match your colors on your tensions. So you see that here. I've actually matched those with my tensions. So what that means is I can tell when I look here, and so I'm going to zoom here in a moment, but I can tell, like you can see I've got red there, I've got yellow behind, and I've got blue and green. So really when I'm learning about sergers and learning about the stitch, so there it is. So again, you've got red, I've got the yellow, and then I've got a blue and green line. What that really means is, again, that's how the stitch is being formed. Okay, so that's why we do this to begin when we're learning. But when you actually are sewing your garment, you want them all the same color. So I'm going to close this up, and I'm actually going to turn a different way. And the other piece that actually makes serging so wonderful is this piece right here. And this little piece right here, this is your blade, because you're actually going to cut, make the seam, overcast all in one step, and it's going to go really, really fast. So with a serger, now I've been talking about this heavy duty is a fabulous serger. We were playing all over with it, getting ready for this class, and it really does a great job. What I want you to realize is sergers often do the same thing. So if you don't have this particular serger, or if you have a different Singer serger, they do work similarly. Wow, I said that okay. Not when I say that too fast. So my take-up lever is clear back here, right? So I can't even get to it. It's clear back here. You actually don't have to raise the take-up lever like you do on a sewing machine. All you're going to do is you're going to put your thumb right underneath the front of your presser foot and place your fabric underneath. So like that. See how that's working? I'm just placing that and placing it underneath right up against the blade. And here's the magic of sergers, everyone, is when I start sewing, again, when you see coming out the back, it's making the seam, it's cutting, it's finishing. Oh my gosh, it's that fast. And this is where, like I said, sergers, microwaves, heating up your coffee cup when it got a little cold. If you don't have a microwave, you would feel like you need one. I need a serger. I cannot sew without it. So here's your beautiful seam. Again, that's the upper looper, lower looper. Oh, sorry. Lower looper is down here, and then our needle threads. Now, this is what a serge seam should look like, but I wanted to, before I actually move on and do a couple techniques. So have we had any questions yet? I just real quick before I start talking about tension, because I know tension can be something that people get a little scared with sergers with. What I did is, this is our beautiful stitch, right? That's what I just serged, and you can see very nice stitch. Right on this edge, can you see right on this edge? Okay. What you're going to see is right on that edge, the lower looper and the upper looper, they connect. And they like knit around the edge. They knit around the edge. What happens if, let's say, and then the needles, pardon me, the needles make a nice long straight stitch. Okay, so right, nice long straight stitch. You got 2 of them, so it's super strong. What happens, this one right here, when you look at this looks pretty good, except maybe it looks a little sloppy. It makes maybe the needle itself looks a little sloppy, I call it. Down here, the needle doesn't maybe look quite right. Now that's from an experienced serger, right? Someone who's serged a while. But here's your test, guys. I'm going to flip it over. Can you see how you've got loops right here and loops here? That means that your needle tension, see that over, oh, I keep going the wrong way. I apologize, guys. See how those big loops are there? Right there. That means that my needle tension is not correct. Okay. It may not look bad from the front, but if you see those loops, that means you got something going on in the back. So what that means for, and some of you I know were asking about, threading and different things like that. What I want to talk with you about just about threading is when you are starting threading, you always want to bring your presser foot up. Always bring the presser foot up because that helps you to get your threads into the tension disc. And then when you are threading any serger, you're just going to, every serger is a little different, guys. So I'm not going to go through directly how to thread every single serger because I can't. But what I can do is, like, when you pull a thread into a tension disc, like into this area here, we call it dental flossing. I take the thread up here at the top, and I know it's hard to see, but you can kind of see my right hand above the serger, and then my left hand is below the serger, and I tug it back and forth. I'm flossing that thread into the tension to make sure it's seated so you don't get those loops. That's what actually happened to me this morning is I forgot to raise the presser foot. And so when I threaded this looper, or excuse me, this needle, it wasn't in the tension and I got those big loops. So that's very important that you pull those threads into that. And then, guys, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here so you can see this, because again, this is true on almost every serger. I'm going to try and go down a little bit here. There are just little, it's like a connect the dot, right? So I'm just going to connect the dots here and do my reds, do my yellows, that sort of thing. I can see that my red came out here. So I'm just going to pull that right back in there. And it just snaps in. Sorry if my hand was in the way. It just kind of snaps in and you just connect the dots. So really that's what it is with a serger. Make sure you raise your presser foot. Very important. Make sure you dental floss. So let's come back out again. Dental floss basically your threads in the tension. So dental floss those in, and then you're ready to go. So really, you guys, you just need to kind of follow along with whatever your serger tells you. Follow the dots. It's just like a little connect the dots. So yeah, Bethany.
We have a question about 2 questions. The first one is about the blade. How often do you feel like that might need to be changed out? And do you have any recommendations on that?
So the question was about the blade, right? So there's actually an upper blade, and I turn this around again, and I'll zoom in a little bit here for you guys on this as well, because I think it's important. So great question. There's not only the upper blade that's here, right? This one here, but there's a lower blade down here. So they work together like a pair of scissors. Often you're going to replace the upper blade before the lower blade. However, I can honestly say if you are careful and you do not cut through pins, I do not cut through pins because your serger is going to cut them right off. If you don't cut through pins, you don't have to change the blade out very often. You're going to start to feel what'll happen is, you saw how nice and easy this cut through, right? It's going to start to fray a little bit and it just won't cut as nicely. That's when you need to change the blade, or if you cut a pin. It could be a year, it could be 3 years, depending upon how much you use your serger. So it really depends a little bit on that, and also the fabric that you're using. So
Okay, and the other question is if someone's having issues with their threads breaking, especially the needle threads, I suggested it's probably a tension issue. But if you have any other tips on how to
Yeah.
prevent and set it up so that you kind of eliminate that consistent thread break.
If you are getting it, that's exactly right, Bethany. I don't know if you heard, the question was about thread breakage, especially in the needles. A couple things that you can make sure to do. So I'm going to put that presser foot down before I forget. I saw it up, so I want to make sure to put that down. Is first of all, get a good quality thread, because I know a lot of people will think, they can use a lesser quality thread on a serger. That is not true. And so if you're using a lesser quality thread, everybody, make sure to get a good quality thread to start with. And also, if you are having thread breakage, especially in the needles, so in our needles over here, change your needles. Sometimes your needles will have a little burr on the inside. And so definitely change your needles, good quality thread. And then just make sure, if your tensions are too high, that can cause thread breakage as well. So at that point, if you're getting a lot of thread breakage, it might be time to take it into a service center, because that can also be timing. It can be things that we actually can't do. So, all right. So we talked about needles, and I mentioned, little loops, gunky needles, needle threads. So make sure you have the tension. I'm going to zoom in again, but this time what I want to talk about is loopers. Okay, so here is, again, I keep going back, guys, but I hope you'll permit me, because there's good, right? This is good, but now this is not so good. And why is it not so good? It's because when I flip this over, look at that. My upper looper thread, so that's that red thread, the upper looper thread is pulling to the back. And what that means, when the upper looper thread pulls to the back, either the upper looper thread is too loose, so it's not in the tension. So this is not in the tension, or the lower looper thread is too tight. And how I kind of think about it is, if I put my fingers, like I got my fingers together, and these are the loopers that are supposed to be right on the edge of the fabric. If the lower looper thread is too tight, it pulls it over. And that's what I'm getting there. Or if the upper looper thread is too loose, again, it's pulling over. So that is, if you're seeing that top thread go to the back, that's an upper looper thread question. If you're seeing the lower looper, so now it's the opposite. The lower looper, that bottom thread is pulling to the front. Oh my gosh, then there's something going on, if you think about it, with the lower looper, and that means the lower looper thread is too loose and it's pulling over to the front. So don't be afraid, guys, depending upon your, your fabric, your threads, that sort of thing, to be able to get that perfect stitch. You may have to adjust your tension a little bit. Don't be afraid to, but if you're often having to change it, then again, it might be time to take it into service, because that is something that they can help you with. So, all right. So I wanted to talk to you about tensions. I thought that was really important. And yeah, so any other questions about that, guys?
No other questions. We just reiterated making sure that you're using serger overlock needles in a serger, not sewing machine needles. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize. So.
Yeah, you definitely want to use the needle that your machine calls for, right? So there are some sergers that can use regular needles. There are some that can't. For our Singer serger, in the little package, that comes with it, there are your serger needles, replacement needles. So definitely look in your manual and choose the proper needle. So that is going to be really important. So, all right. So I saw someone that had written earlier about how do you start and stop a seam. And this was one of the things Bethany helped me write up. Actually, Bethany wrote up our little serger techniques piece. And if you have this out, or if you printed this out, there's notes on the back. And basically I put my notes in there as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of with number 4 and go backwards. And so What I want to start with is starting and stopping, right? So starting and stopping a seam. It's different because with a serger, you don't go backwards. If you don't have a reverse button, it's not going to sew backwards. So I'm going to turn this again. And what I want to do is I'm going to start, and this is where I think it's super important that you realize how this works. So I'm going to try and zoom in just a little bit more. And I'm going to start serging. And when I start serging, I'm just going to take it nice and easy. And it's hard to see, but I took 2 stitches into my fabric. 2 stitches into my fabric. So if you have your paper, this is where you take those notes, right? Is 2 stitches into the fabric. You're going to raise your presser foot. And now notice how I'm pulling my thread chain. I'm going to take all the extra threads off the thread chain. I just pulled those threads out and I'm going to swing it. And, excuse me, there we go. Swing it around to the front in front of the blade. So I'm just going to, and I'm going to hold it taut, not super tight, but just taut. And now when I start sewing, I cut off the stitch or cut off the thread. And this is what it looks like. You just caught your thread underneath and it caught your thread underneath the stitching. So that's not going to come out. So that's how you sew on, basically. You just go ahead and sew on like that. And then when you get to the end, of course, now what do I do, right? So you get to the end, I'm going to take 1 stitch off my fabric. So I took 1 stitch off my fabric. And this is something that I kind of like to do. Not everyone will do this, but what I like to do is I like to just loosen. See how I just took my finger into those needle threads just a little bit. With those needle threads now loose, I'm going to raise the presser foot. And this is important, guys. I'm going to take that fabric and pull it straight out. Okay, so I'm going to pull it straight out the back. That takes the threads and makes it easy for me now to actually bring my fabric around. So bring my fabric around here. Put my presser foot back down and my needles are like right on the edge of that fabric. My needles are right on the edge of the fabric. And then I'm gonna, and you can't see this. So I see these, I've got my threads here. I'm actually going to just tighten the needle threads up a little bit. And now just sew again, serge again. And what that just did for me that time was now I just serged right over the top here. And I did a better job in my sample fabric. So there we go. You can see how I just serged right over the top. And so you finished at the beginning and then at the end. And then you just kind of sew off the edge. So these seams at the end and at the beginning are now secure. So that's how you actually secure front and end or start beginning and end of your seams. So it's pretty straightforward. A lot of people I know just cut it and use fray check, but I don't necessarily, or a fray stop or some sort of fabric glue. I don't like to do that because it gets kind of rough. So that's why I will do this technique. So pretty easy for that. All right. Any other questions about that?
No, we're good.
All right. So that was step 1. I know I'm talking fast, but I want to make sure I get through anything. So please, if you do have any questions, certainly Bethany and Amy will stop me for this. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about, and I always go the wrong way on this, guys. I apologize for my camera work today. Let's say you're going to do a napkin. You're going to go around the edge of a napkin or a blanket or something like that. How do you actually serge a corner when you are actually, when you're serging And how do you make it look nice, right? How do you make it look nice? That's our next step, is how do you make it look nice? And this is, so let's go back in. I do want to go back in. And let's see here. Trying not to go too fast here. So you can see there and there, you have a nice finished little edge, whether it's for a 4-thread stitch or whether it's for a rolled edge or whatever it is. So let's learn how to do that. So that is our next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I'm going to sew. And once I get to the end, and I didn't sew very close to the edge there, so I have a feeling my my seam looks just a little funky, but that's okay. All I'm going to do, everybody, is take again 1 stitch off your fabric. So I'm not sewing on fabric there. Take 1 stitch off the fabric. Come in and loosen those needle threads a little bit. Raise your presser foot. Pull your fabric. So it's the similar thing, right? This time, instead of turning it, so I was like this, my hand got in the way. This time, instead of turning it all the way around, all I'm going to do is I'm going to place my fabric so it's right underneath where the needles are going to start again. And I want to make sure I get in, make sure that my fabric is right next to the blade, and go ahead and start sewing. And I'm going to do another corner here. So again, 1 stitch off, loosen the needles, raise your presser foot, and make that nice little turn. And again, with the heavy duty, so with this particular model, it has a little extra lift. So that's kind of nice to be able to put that right under there, right underneath that corner. And so again, you've got your nice little finished edge right there. So again, you've got a great way to finish. You still can put a little fray stop if you choose, but I don't, again, if you get good with these corners, you really don't need to. So
We had a quick question, Sonny. Can you disable the blade if you don't want to cut the fabric?
So that's a great question. The question was, can you disable the blade if you don't want to cut the fabric? So that's kind of a sticky question. I don't know who asked it, but you gave me a sticky question, and that's okay. You can certainly disable the blade. What you do is you actually take the blade and it moves up like this. So it takes this away. However, this is why it's a sticky question. Your loopers, so see that looper, scoot back, is still moving up above the fabric. So if you disable the blade and you get your fabric too far over, you run your looper into the fabric, and that causes damage to your machine, to your serger. So really, I am not so much an advocate for doing that. What I am an advocate of, so I put this back down, is learning where the blade is and then actually sewing next to it if you don't want to cut the fabric. But great question, kind of a tricky one, because again, that looper is always going to be moving. So you can really hurt your machine if you're not careful with the blade up.
Another question would be, how do you set seam allowance on a serger? For example, if you need a 1/4 inch seam allowance or a 5/8 inch seam allowance.
Yeah. So again, great questions, guys. I shouldn't have closed up my machine here. There is right down here. So let me just zoom out just slightly. Right down here, it's hard to see with my lighting, but there's a little dial, and this little dial is actually a width control. Okay, so it is a width control, and with that width control, it's moving the blade back and forth. So that actually will allow you to move the blade to a certain space if it's like a 1/4 inch. And how I do that is I actually take a piece of fabric, whatever piece of fabric it is, and I'll mark my 1/4 inch on the fabric with a piece of, or not with a piece of tape, actually with a, just a pen or a pencil, and I'll move the blade to get it for 1/4 inch, move it back and forth. And when my left needle is hitting on that marked 1/4 inch, guess what? I know that it's a 1/4 inch. So you kind of have to mess around with that. For 5/8 inch, usually a 5/8 inch is over in here. I do the same thing. I mark my 5/8 inch seam, and then I will put a piece of tape on the front of my serger and measure that. So really you have to do a little bit to find what those numbers are or what the seam allowance is, but that's the easiest way I think to do that for us. So, all right. So now this is also, I will say, a very important piece we just did. All right, and I think I was being very nonchalant. I just threw my little piece on the ground. This is your outside curve. But what happens when you are sewing an inside curve like this, or an inside square? Like sometimes you have to do things like that with a serger. The trick is the blade. Remember, the blade is before the needles, right? So here's your blade, your needles are back here. So you have to be careful where the blade is. So this might be why you were saying, hey, I want to disengage the blade for things. What I want to share with you is there is a way, and what you have to think about when you're serging. So this is my cut piece, right? I've got this inside curve. When you're serging, you have to remember the blade is first, and you try to, I say, straighten every seam. When you look at this, it's kind of hard to see straight, but let me go ahead and show you. Once I get up to where this is where my piece is, that's right at the blade. You actually see how I'm kind of folding all of this up. I'm making this a straight line versus a curved line. And that's how you get around a corner. See that? There might be a little loop like that. That's okay. But you're basically straightening the seam to let yourself have that curve. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? And I was just teaching a class on making t-shirts. And with the t-shirts, we had a nice little curve, right? So we were working on this curve, and I had a lot of people. I don't know that I can show you any better. What I had a lot of people doing is, here's my curve again, guys, right? Here's my curve. If I don't take care of it now, I start cutting the fabric. So people were making little cuts in their underarm seams for the t-shirt. Straighten it out. See again how I'm, there we go. That's a better angle. So I was over here, it was starting to cut. So now I need to straighten that out. So the seam itself, even though it's a curve, and this is a woven fabric, so you can do it with woven or knits. You end up straightening whatever it is. So then you have your curve, right? So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, because that's a lot of questions I get are all about how do you make, an inside curve, or, an inside curve, or how do you make a outside curve, that sort of thing. So that's how it's done. So I think that's really important. So pretty cool. All right. So we're doing okay on questions. I know what our timing is. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. So the next thing I want to talk with you about is really, I want to talk with you about a tube turn. Now, Bethany did a class, it was over a year ago. I can't believe it, Bethany, that we did a class about a year ago on basically sergers and just serger techniques. And she showed the tube turns. Well, I wanted to share with you, I tend to do a lot of skirts. So this is a little wrap skirt that I did, but the the strap that I made, or the little tie that I made, was done with a tube turn on my serger. It works great. And so this is a great way to do that for belt loops, pardon me, anything like that. It really is a great thing. And this is a woven fabric. All right, so this is a woven fabric. This is not, knits are a little bit easier, or if you're using these for like spaghetti straps on lingerie, it's a little bit easier to work with, but woven fabrics are a little bit more challenging. So what I want to share with you, this is just, again, just a strip of fabric. And when doing a tube turn, there are a couple things that I think are really important. First of all, look what I'm doing here. I know it's hard to maybe see a little bit. All I'm doing is I am making my thread chain as long, if not longer than, whatever I'm going to turn. So if I flip this around, I'm making that thread chain longer than whatever I'm going to turn. And the other thing that I think is super important, everybody, is we're going to wrap that thread chain. So I'm going to wrap the thread chain like this. So I know that was hard to see. My hands get in the way. I'm going to wrap this around like this. The fold of the fabric is going to be over on the left. We're not going to cut the fold of the fabric. But the other thing that's super important is, remember, keep going back to this little piece here. Remember, this is the width of your stitch. So your tube turn itself has to be wider than whatever this is. Otherwise, it's not going to turn. The other piece that's important to that is, as you're serging, you don't want to catch. So I've got this is over here. You don't want to catch that little thread chain, right? So you don't want to catch the little thread chain. And now I'm going to zoom in. So hopefully you can see this pretty well. I'm going to zoom in. Try not to zoom in too fast. I'm working really hard for you guys. I hope we're doing okay. So here's our little thread chain. And when I serge, that fold is over on the left and the chain is in the fold, right? So now let's go ahead. And I just keep putting this in the fold, keep putting it in the fold, making sure I'm not going to catch that. So once I'm done here, so I've got this, here's my thread chain up here is attached. This is still attached. So don't cut that off. I've had people that do that all the work and then they cut that right off, and you don't want to do that, because now, and this is the little trick that takes a moment of time, is we're going to just use that. If any of you, okay, I'm going to date myself, but have any of you ever used a bodkin? I say that, I'm dating myself. I've said that to people. They have no idea what a bodkin is. That's what we use instead of a safety pin. But once you get this started, pulling through, there we go. Once you get it started, it makes it much easier. So here we go. Just going to start. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm just I keep working my way through this, and I'm just keep pulling and pulling and pulling, and it just keeps coming. And now it's out the top. So when you get done, isn't that like the best thing in the world? I see some smiles and wows, and this is great. Isn't that fun?
I love Katrina's message. She said sneaky.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There we go. There we go. So with that, again, that's a great way to use your serger, maybe a little differently than what you're used to, right? So maybe a little differently. So that tube turn, again, I use it for all sorts of different things. Belt loops, it's fabulous for anything that you are working with as far as Oh gosh, anytime you need a small tube, right? So it's great. All right. So before I move on, Bethany and Amy, are there any other things that I need to address before we go further?
Not at the moment, just, I think you just blew everybody's minds with that
Yeah,
tube turn. It's
that
always
tube-
a fan favorite.
It is, it really is. So, so what we're gonna do next, why I waited. Okay, so why I waited for just that moment is now what we're gonna do is I have been using all 4 of my threads up here at the same time. So I've been using all 4 threads. We talked about it at the very beginning, right? What we said is we were using 2 needles. So 2 needles here. And then we were using the upper and the lower loopers. So both loopers. All right. So both loopers. What we're now going to do is we're going to work with, I'm going to start out with a flat lock. All right, so I'm going to start out with a flat lock, and sadly, I forgot my flat lock samples at home, so I apologize for that. I don't have them in studio, but what I can do is show you here. Can you see that this is in the middle of your fabric? Same with this piece here, these ladder stitches in the middle of the fabric. That is done by tricking your serger into thinking that it's going to do something that it's not doing, which is actually really, really cool. The other piece to this puzzle with these little guys is this is where the person who asked earlier, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, but the person who asked earlier about not cutting, guess what? You don't want to cut if at all possible with a flat lock. So with a flat lock, we're going to use 3 of our 4 threads. Okay, so 3 of our 4 threads. So we'll start by, I'm going to zoom in now again, and we're going to use the right needle. So I'm going to use the right needle or the A needle in my case. So again, with the heavy duty, it's really nicely labeled. So I'm going to use the A needle, and I'm going to take out the B needle. So use the A. I'm going to take out the B. Now I'm going to give you a little tip for when you're taking out the needles. What I like to do is I like to leave my needle threaded, because that way, if the needle happens to drop, I can pick it up with the thread, versus if I just take the thread out, then it's like, oh my gosh, where'd the needle go? So I'm going to take my little screwdriver, and I am going to use my tweezers for this, and we'll see how good I am left-handed here. And I'm going to take out the B needle, so I'm just going to let that come out. See how it's just coming out. And again, because I've got that thread in there, it's easy for me to hold on to that needle until I go ahead and clip that thread. It's that easy, right? It's that easy. Another little tip, I like to keep a little piece of fabric around, because I'll put my needle in that extra piece of fabric. So yeah, Amy, we have a question. Oh, that was a time check. I thought we had a question. So, okay, so thank you. So we have 15 minutes left. We're doing really good on time though, guys. So now all I'm going to do, now we're actually serging with what's called a 3-thread narrow stitch. So I have in the A needle. I do not have the B needle, so that I took out. And if I had the B needle in and not the A needle, it would be a 3-thread wide. So the needle helps you learn what you basically, what your width is going to be in that case. All right. So I went ahead and moved up. We're not using the blue. We took that out because that was the B needle or the left needle. The tension on your needle for a flat lock, this is where, if you have notes, this is a great time to take notes. The tension on your needle for a flat lock is actually going to be super loose. I'm taking it all the way down to 0, 1, right around there. It's going to be super loose. The upper looper thread, so the red in my case, is going to be normal. So right around 3. And then the lower looper thread is going to be super high. So if I come back and we look here at this stitch, right? So if I look here at this stitch, I see the upper looper here, the needle is behind, and then the lower looper is just basically a line of thread because we're taking that super high. All right. So let's see how we do today with this, guys. I smile. It's always when we're trying on camera, doing something different that you can do it every day without it. So, okay, so I'm going to do this, but I am going to turn because this is where the person who asked about, you know, not cutting or removing the blade is right now. I'm being real careful. I've got the fold of my fabric. So I am actually sewing on the fold of the fabric, but I'm not going to cut the fold of the fabric. So that's right next to the blade. And the more you use your serger, everyone, the more you're going to realize where that blade is and how to do that without the blade, without cutting, excuse me. So here we go. Let's see how we do today. And trying to keep my hand out of the way. And basically, in this case, the stitch looks kind of gunky until I do this, as I open it up. And it flat locks, it flattens out, and then you have a real pretty stitch that's on top. So that is why it's called a flat lock, is because you sew it straight, but then when you pull it, it flattens out, which is actually really cool.
Someone asked, what would be the purpose of doing a flat lock stitch?
So great question, really great question. So purpose of flat lock, one is decorative, right? So you can put decorative threads. I'm going to do that for the rolled edge, but you can put decorative threads in there. So that makes it look very interesting. But the other way is if you think about on some sweatshirts that have a raglan sleeve, so you know that it's at the top and the sleeve actually is a little different. It's called a raglan sleeve. You can sometimes see a flat lock like that to put the seam together, and it gives a more decorative look for the seam finish as well. So that's another place, is actually putting a seam together with it. And the other piece is, remember, I showed you the front, which is the upper looper. The back right here, that ladder stitch, that's your needle thread. So if you want decorative thread to show like this, you would put it in the upper looper. If you want the ladder stitch to show, that's going to be in your needle. And one other thing that I did not say, guys, it does depend on how you fold your fabric. Notice I folded wrong sides together to get the upper looper on top. But if you wanted your ladder stitch to show instead, let's just do that real quick. What I did is, instead of right sides together, I'm folding so wrong sides are together. Or I just said that backwards. Oh my gosh. You guys need to keep me in check here. This was wrong sides together. Now we're doing right sides together. Here we go. Now I'm questioning myself here. Let's just run it and see. Sorry about that. That's fine. All right. So basically now the right side has the ladder stitch. So depending upon which one you want to show, whether it's the ladder stitch or whether it's the decorative, is how you fold your fabric. All right. So other questions about that, guys? That's a fun one. That's just, I mean, it's decorative. It's really kind of fun. Again, I zoomed way in, but I didn't mean to, but you can just see now you've got your one needle right there, right? So, okay. The last thing we're going to do and we're going to talk about is the rolled edge, which again, Bethany talked about the rolled edge in the previous class. However, we're going to talk about a little extension of a rolled edge, which is called a lettuce edge. And what a lettuce edge does, okay, so what a lettuce edge does is see how it finishes the top, but it looks like lettuce. It just gets all frilly on the top. One of my colleagues made this really beautiful. It's like a beautiful spring shirt. Look at those colors. That's lovely. But look at the edge, right? She did a nice little lettuce edge on that in the seam. And oh my gosh, how pretty is that? What a nice finish for us. So what I want to share with you, okay, so I do want to share one other thing. So we are going to change tensions, okay, for the, basically for the rolled edge, right? So we're going to take our needle back to normal, which is right around 3. So needle is at normal. The upper looper is a little bit less, and the lower looper stays pretty tight. So again, the needle, really kind of cool. You're going to take that back to normal. The upper looper a little bit less, and the lower looper you want to keep pretty tight. But here's the trick, and I don't know if I can get in quite close enough, everybody, but I'm going to try. All right, so I'm going to try this. And why I got in so close is with sergers, there's this thing called a stitch finger, and that's what holds and makes your stitch nice and flat. For a rolled edge, you're going to actually remove the stitch finger. Oh, if you look really closely, actually, you can see that moving. Can you see that moving? That's pretty cool. So if I pull that now, that's not there. So it's going to make a more rounded stitch, which I think is really beautiful. And then the last thing, and I'm going to do this really fast, guys, because many of you, when I watched Bethany's class, the last class, many of you actually asked about like tying on or changing to, like this is what's called a woolly nylon. It's an unspun thread. The thing about tying on is you're going to just clip. I know you probably didn't see it, but I actually took scissors to that thread. I know that scares some of you. It scares me too sometimes. And then I'm going to take this woolly thread and I'm just going to make an overhand knot. And if everything goes well with my overhand knot, this is called tying on again. You've heard it if you are working with sergers. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to serge and let this, and it's just pulling itself through. And eventually I can see, you can actually see on camera, even though I'm not zoomed in, there's a little knot there. So now I've got my fluffy thread. If I'm just changing one color of thread like that, that's really a great way to do it. So let's come back. Zoom in a little bit. And see a mind blown. I'm so excited. So now the last thing that I didn't tell you to do yet, and this is a personal preference, that is actually to take your stitch length. So this is stitch length a little bit closer to 2 or toward the F, which is for fine. Some of you, it goes down to R for rolled, but you're taking it very low. So you're making it close together. And that's what makes that real pretty finished edge. So now let's go ahead and search. Even a little bit closer. It really is a personal preference for you, how close you want it to be. And I was talking with Bethany and we were talking there, you can even actually keep it far apart. So there's your close together, right? But I like this little stitch. If you keep your stitch length far apart, this is called a picot edge. Beautiful for lingerie, right? So, but also think about this, how pretty that would be on a bridal veil or something like that. So this is a beautiful, again, called a picot edge. Now, all I'm going to do to get it to lettuce is I'm going to use my differential feed And I'm making my differential feed a little bit lower. And then if I really wanted to let us see how I'm pulling on the front of the fabric. Pulling the front of the So there you have, you know, your normal rolled edge, but then here at the end, this is our little lettuce edge that has all that great lettuce look to it. So kind of cool. And I think that's really it. So Bethany, if we can go back to the other camera. I'm hoping you guys had some fun. You learned something. I really hope you learned something. There's so much you can do with Sergers. We would love to know, first of all, what you want us to do next in classes. We are always wondering what's the next thing, but I hope again that you learned something, that we were able to help you. And if you guys are, if you're in the market for a Serger, this is a great one. So I really have enjoyed working with this. I get to work with lots of different Sergers, and the heavy duty is really great. Michael's has it, so you're certainly can go there and pick up your Serger. And I think that's about it. If you make something and you want to share with us, we would love to know. Hashtag, I think it's Singer Sewing,
and make it with
then
Mike.
hashtag make it with Michael. So there are a couple different things. We'd love to see what you guys do. So thank you all. It had a great time with you today, and go forth and serge. Have some fun. Thank you.